Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. This is where I like to collect together all the different things that I picked up over the past week, present it to you guys, give you a little bit of background on it, maybe turn you on to something new and or just remind you about stuff you have in your own collection. I picked up 28 CDs this past week. I also got a book sent to me. So a lot of cool things here to go through with you guys. We're going to get into it in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notification, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this with New Music Finds. So the past week was not only my birthday, or I had my birthday, I should say, in the past week. In fact, it was just yesterday, Tuesday. So I had taken Monday, Tuesday off, which meant if I had a really essentially a 4-day long weekend, then I was going to be, doing some extra music shopping. And I also happened to get a lot of stuff in the mail. So that's where the 28 CDs are coming from here. Let's start off with new releases though. The only one that I actually picked up that was brand new from the previous, or from the past Friday here, July 18th, was the brand new Bush album, I Beat Loneliness. This is, it's a good album, but I will say this, it hasn't connected with me the way that their previous albums have. And I really like the newer modern day Bush more than the original era of the band, but I did discover them later, so I'm quite sure that is why I like the newer version of Bush as opposed to the classic era, which I know everybody loves, the debut album and stuff like that. But I have to say with this one here, it hasn't clicked. Probably because my mind has been on all the other stuff that I've got and that I'm able to listen to, which is not of the alternative rock world. So I'm going to put this one aside. I'm going to come back to it. I think it's going to be great when my mind is in the right headspace. And that's why I'm one of those ones where, if you only listen to a few tracks, 30 seconds a piece, when an album drops, if your mind's not in the right headspace, I would probably not buy this, but I know that I like the band and I know that I'm going to like it. It's just my mind's not in the headspace right now. So I'm going to be coming back to that one, but I did want to let you guys know that a brand new Bush album is out if you want to go grab that. Now, something that came out, I want to say maybe the week before, but it took a little bit for it to get to me, is the album Double Vision. The band is Double Vision. It's their self-titled release. They are a Foreigner tribute group who has now written and recorded their own album of original material. There's actually no covers on this, so they don't do any Foreigner songs, although I'd actually like to hear how they sound doing Foreigner songs too. I kind of wish there was a couple bonus tracks on here for that, but that's not how it went. So I can hear elements in here. There's certain ways that they play. They add the sax solo on it or something that gives it that Foreigner feel. But it really doesn't have or sound like Foreigner. It's great AOR melodic rock. And at first, it kind of didn't connect with me, but I gave it a few more listens, mainly just really trying to hear the essence of why they're a Foreigner tribute group. But through doing that, I ended up really falling in love with this and enjoying it. It just turned out to be great. It took 2-3 listens to get into it. And then once I did, I couldn't get this thing out of my CD player. I was just enjoying it so much. So again, goes to show you that if you stop on the first listen or you only sample some stuff, you could be missing out on a lot of great things. This next thing here, again, I think this is from maybe a couple weeks back, but I didn't immediately think to pick it up. In fact, I thought it was one thing and found out, in fact, it was something else. So Presto Ballet, Drementia, and I always knew that this was a side project or a different band that Kurt Vanderhoof, the guitar player for Metal Church, does, and I just assumed it was metal prog. I didn't know that, in fact, it actually sounds like classic 70s era prog from bands like Yes. So it's not metal at all in any way, shape, or form. And I wasn't expecting that. I just, again, I guess I associated the whole metal church, metal sounding guitar, that's what this was going to be here. And I should have known better because he has other projects like Hall of Flame, which are hard rock, which are very different than metal church. So once I don't know if I read it somewhere or what it was, but when I saw something that said that it sounds like 70s era progressive rock and it started referencing certain artists, I said, well, I need to check that out then. And like I said, so it totally turned out to be really cool, old school progressive rock. And when I found that out, I went ahead and picked it up, but it had already been out a couple weeks. So this is out on Rat Pack Records. And yeah, if you like 70s prog, but maybe like me, you were turned off from the idea that this is, a thrash metal guitar player doing this, it's really good stuff. So I ended up really enjoying that. That was something I wasn't expecting. And I think maybe the same week that came out, I had seen this Doug Clifford solo album. In fact, I think it's his one and only. He was the drummer for Creedence Clearwater Revival. The name of the album is Cosmo. I don't know if this is the first time it's been on CD, but I've never seen it on CD. In fact, I didn't even know he had a solo album. So that was kind of a cool thing. I gave it a listen when I saw that it had been released, and it was a little quirky. And it's kind of what you would expect from a very early 70s era album of a 60s era artist. But it wasn't something that I immediately felt like I needed for the collection. But it sat in my Amazon shopping cart and I kept seeing it. I kept thinking, I kind of really want it. It doesn't even kind of matter how it sounds. I kind of just really want it in there. It was just the idea of it that intrigued me. And so I went ahead and I broke down and I bought it. And I got home and I put it on and it sounded great. Again, you gotta like 60s era rock, very early 70s style sounding stuff. Doug Clifford sings. I think he sounds good on it. And I was surprised by this. I don't know how many more times I will probably listen to it, but I'm glad to have it in the collection. It was just one of those ones that I initially was going to try not to buy, but I kept thinking about it and thinking about it. So I said, you know what? Just get it. Just have it. And so I'm glad I did. Now this is a new release, but it's also going to kick off the next round of things that I'm going to talk about, which are from Bad Reputation Records. So Silver Horses Perspectives, this came out this past July 18th, and it's a reissue of the debut album, and it's also a compilation of unreleased recordings. And the debut album, I forget what it was. Maybe it had a name or it was just self-titled release, but it wasn't called Perspective. So basically this is a collection of stuff that they've already released to date. But that debut album has Tony Martin, formerly of Black Sabbath, singing for them. And I had known that he had done that and never been able to come across that album. And Bad Reputation Records has reissued or put this out, which has that debut album. And then on the second disc, there is a collection of tracks where they've recorded with other singers, and for whatever reason, they never came out. And so we have Joe Ellis from Cats and Boots. We have Jack Mealy from Tigers of Pantang. Kelly Keeling from Baton Rouge. We also have some more Tony Martin stuff. Stefan Berggren from Snakes in Paradise and Company of Snakes. So very cool, that second disc as well. But I was really buying it for that Tony Martin sound. And the stuff that's on here is in the vein of that, but it leans more towards Whitesnake and Bad Company than Black Sabbath. But you can hear the stylings of the Sabbath guitar playing on here, which is why maybe Tony Martin might have been drawn to it. Interestingly, Tony Martin would later front M3, which featured Mickey Moody and Bernie Marsden of Whitesnake, with Neil Murray on bass, three guys from Whitesnake, and that was the M3 because they all last names were all M, but spawning from the Snakes, which that band used to be, and then changed their name because David Coverdale asked them to change their name. But anyways, just Tony Martin leaning in that blues rock vein of Bad Company and Whitesnake, not so far-fetched, especially since I actually went out on the road singing all the Whitesnake stuff. There's a live album out there with Tony Martin singing for M3 if you want to check that out. But this is original stuff here, Silver Horses, Perspectives, with Tony Martin of Black Sabbath singing. So that was a new release, and I happened to get it in the mail on July 18th, so it was just perfect timing to get that because it was a new release, but also get the rest of this cool stuff from Bad Reputation Records, of which I've done or did an unboxing when it came in the mail, so I won't spend too long on it here, but I just want to give you guys a little clarity on some of the stuff because I misspoke about some stuff when I was doing the unboxing. I mean, can't remember everything, right? And I knew there was a reason behind some of these things why I wanted them, and yet didn't quite know how they were going to sound. But I have to say that this stuff ended up really, really exciting me. So, Skyhooks. Now, initially, I thought there was somebody in here that I was excited about, that I knew from somewhere else. Turns out that was not the case. And in fact, it's because the opening track, Women in Uniform, was covered by Iron Maiden, and I knew that from Iron Maiden, and I'm always intrigued by why did Steve Harris think that was a song that they should be covering. And having heard this version of it, I really enjoyed it, and then the rest of the album turned out to be great. So while this started off as just a curiosity, it ended up turning out to be really good. Now I'm having a hard time finding Skyhooks material because I'd like to check out more than just this one album. But if you want to check out this album, which happens to have Women in Uniform on it, you probably know it from Iron Maiden. Well, they covered it from the Skyhooks. And they're a little bit of a quirky band, but the stuff is good, and this has a whole bunch of it. It has 8, in fact, bonus tracks on it. So you not only get the original album itself, Guilty Until Proven Insane is the title of that, but that turned out to be way better than I expected, and so did this next one, Mariah. So this is featuring Frankie Sullivan of Survivor. He was the guitar player. The album itself came out in 1975, so way before the Survivor era stuff. But this stuff, and while it doesn't sound like Survivor either, it's just good 70s rock music. And I was solely buying it for the Frankie Sullivan connection, nothing else. I didn't know what this was going to sound like, but I got to say, really between both of these, I was just shocked and elated. And then there's this band, Cochise. So I didn't know anything about them. I just looked at the era, saw the picture of the guys, and said, you know what, I want to take a chance on this, give this a listen. And this too just really blew my hair back. I mean, it was just such a good sounding rock album. It's got a little bit of soul and funk mixed in with it, a little flavor of it. But it's full on rock, and just was, I don't know why I've never heard of these guys. This release is 1979. So a lot of times it's like, I look at the year, I look at the album cover, I look at what the people and the band look like. And sometimes just based on that, I want to take a chance. And that's the way that album was. And it turned out to be the absolute right thing. And a lot of times you got to think, if these albums are being reissued, if someone has gone to the trouble to reissue and get this stuff out, there's got to be something good about it. It's not always just who was in a band. Sometimes the stuff is just phenomenal rock music and we wonder why it never hit. Well, Bad Reputation Records is putting out a number of great things like that. So then here's this one, the Royal Court of China, who, when I saw the album cover, because of how big the album name is, which is geared and Primed, I thought that was the name of the group, but it's actually the Royal Court of China. So Geared and Primed is the name of the album. And it is, in fact, what I said I thought it was going to be, which is just good biker rock, hard rock music from the late 80s. I think this is 1989. Yeah, 1989. It was on A&M Records. And again, you could just look at these things and know, and it turned out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be and exactly what I hoped it would be. So if you like good biker rock, hard rock from the 80s, check this out. This is some really good stuff. I would hands down recommend all four of these first releases: the Skyhooks, the Mariah, the Cochise, and the Royal Court of China for you guys if you want to head on over to Bad Reputation Records. So I forgot to mention this when I did the unboxing with the Bad Reputation Records stuff in full, but since I'm talking to you guys now about how great these are and that you should head over and pick them up, I want to let everyone know that Eric Hubbard, the owner, gave me a code to give to you guys so that he can throw a free CD in for you. And so there's two of them. There's one that ends in a G, meaning girl, and one that ends in an M, meaning, I guess, male, for a boy artist. So it's my name, Brendan, Brendon, 00G or 00M. And if you pick which one you want, he'll either throw in an artist fronted by a girl or an artist fronted by a man in there. So I'm going to leave that in the description so that if that wasn't all totally clear to you, you can get the links or the, passcode, whatever it is that you can submit in order to get that free CD. But he'll throw in a free CD, and it's a little bit, it'll be his choice, but it'll be something that you can go order something and then know that something bonus is being thrown in. I thought that was kind of a cool thing, and I totally forgot to mention it at the time, but I wanted to throw that in since I'm talking about how great these are. So moving on to other Bad Reputation Records releases that I got, the World War III, which is not the same band as the Mandy Lion band that got notoriety, at least here in the U.S. This band must be somewhere different outside of the U.S., or maybe it was just an underrated, group that had the name before. I don't know. But this album here, is more on the hard rock side than the metal side of things, but just good hard rock, again, a little metal leaning style music. It came out in 1985, so that should tell you something about it there. And then the French group Ganafal, and this was a release that I was missing. So this is Saturday Night, but it also has the live album on it. So Eric was helping me flesh out the rest of my Ganafal collection. If you like AC/DC, check that band out. They sing in English. The kind of crazy name Ganafal doesn't sound right to us Americans, but it's sort of a person that's a fool. It kind of means that sort of thing, as it's been explained to me. But it's great music. It's a really great music. Now, this next one here, I didn't expect much from the group China, and they are a Swiss band, and I had one of their releases. This one here, I think this is 1991, and it's called Go All the Way. This one, Sign in the Sky, is their second album. I don't have the debut, but I did have this one, and recently I had pulled it out, and it hit me far more than it had at the time that I had gotten it. So when I saw that he had a release, and the cool thing is this has a bonus disc in it with a live EP that they had done, plus 2 studio tracks added onto it, I thought, hey, throw this in, let me check this out. And it turned out to be just as good as this album. Now I've got to track down the debut because the second album has turned out to be really great, and the third album has turned out to be really great. So I'm going to definitely have to check more out from the band China. And a group that I talked a lot about before, and one of the times that Eric Kubard had sent stuff from Bad Reputation Records was a band called Glider. And I got one from him, the debut album, and it turned out to be fantastic. So I ordered another, and I believe that was their fourth album, but I was missing their third. And I don't know if this is their second. And I don't know if this is the third one, but I think they've only got 4 things out. I know this one is a collection of EPs and demos and stuff. So not quite sure where it fits into the catalog offhand, but this is their second studio album. So he sent along 2 more, and I got to have those. And so I'm fleshing out the Glider catalog. And they're a killer Irish band. They have one foot in the whole Thin Lizzy sounding style stuff, and the other foot is firmly their own thing. So if you want something that's definitely influenced and has that feel, but is not a direct clone, Glider is a great band for that. And the last thing is Duke Jupiter, and this was a new release for them, getting this out, reissuing these 2 albums, Sweet Cheeks and Taste the Night. And these are from 78 and 79 respectively. And so that was thrown in there for me to check out. It's not quite as rock as I thought it was going to be. It's definitely got some more, soulful and R&B style influence. A little hard to describe. It's definitely got more influences outside of the rock vein than just straight rock. But I had seen this name so often that I needed to check some stuff out. So I'm going to have to listen to this when my head is completely clear and separate from all this other rock stuff, because I think I could totally get into the band. But it is something that caught me off guard. It wasn't quite what I expected it to be. So look it up if you want to explore something unique and different. But Duke Jupiter is, like I said, it's got some soul and some R&B flavoring to their rock stylings. I think they've got, horns or saxophone or something along those lines in there. So lots and lots of variety in what you're hearing as far as that's concerned. Okay, so I'd also gotten an order in from Heavy Metal Museum, and this is they may have an online store presence, but I know them from eBay. They have a presence on eBay. I found their store through there, all the things they upload and sell through that. So I went through and perused their whole, catalog worth of stuff and found some really killer things, like this Best of Sword album. This is the Canadian band Sword. Look at the inside of this thing. It's all foil face stuff. So it's really cool. There's some unreleased tracks, bonus tracks included on this. The one that I was super excited to get was this, Studs Lion. So this is Mike Tramp before White Lion. He had a band called Studs, and then he had a band they keep referring to as Danish Lions, but then everything says Lion. So I don't know if this was a matter of they were called Danish Lions just to delineate from something else, but the band was Lion. So you had a band called Studs and a band called Lion. And Studs, they actually released an album and put it out, but the demos are from Lion, and then eventually some of the stuff would turn up with White Lion as the guys from Danish Lions or Lion went back home to Denmark, where he's from. He chose to stay in the US, meets Vito Barata, and forms White Lion. So there is a demo on here of El Salvador, which ended up on their debut album. But let's see, there we go. There's Mike Tramp for you right there. But I think this is like 1981, give or take. Hang on, someone's at the door. All right, so I don't know if you could hear that, but that was the doorbell. I had to run down, see who was at the door. And normally I would just let whoever's ringing my doorbell ring it. I wouldn't have cared. But I thought that it might be this, a package in the mail. So I got something from Spain. I've been waiting for this, and I knew it was one of those ones where you have to sign for it, and I didn't want it to end up at the post office. I hate having to go down and wait in line to pick something up. But this has taken its sweet time getting to me, and I'm going to go ahead and open it with you guys. So instead of it being 28 CDs, we just added a 29th CD to the thing. And I wasn't planning on doing this, but we're going to open it up right now. And I'm going to come back to the rest of the stuff in a minute. But this was such a cool thing. It's an eBay order. And I did not know that this band had a third album out. And I got to get into it here first. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Give me just a moment because it's taking, so there we go. I got out earlier. All right. So Target. Now, if you know the two Target albums on Rock Candy Records, then you know that the lead singer for the band Target was Jimmy Jamison of Survivor. And so interesting that I had Mariah, Frankie Sullivan, and then now today, this arrives while we're doing this video, so another Survivor connection. So they had two albums out. This was a third album that was recorded but never released, and then it got a release. And it's on Escape Records. I'm not seeing 2017. So it's actually been out for 7 years, but it's already out of print. Extremely hard to come by. I found somebody that had it, and I decided to order it off of eBay, and it came from Spain. And like I said, they needed signature and everything for it. But I'm looking forward to checking this out and enjoying it. So there you go. There's another one that came in the mail. So perfect timing. And at the time that I'm filming this, you guys are watching this on Wednesday, but today is Tuesday, my birthday. So what better thing to get than an album I've been waiting for weeks on to get, a rarity like this. So now I have something additionally new. I've actually got some other stuff, but that was a very cool thing. All right, so we're going to jump back to where we were, where I was talking about studs with Mike Tramp getting this out, and this is limited to 200 copies. It is a 2025 release on Loudworks Classic Albums. I haven't reached out to Mike Tramp just yet to see if this is like official or what this is, but there's the inside picture of them. I don't know if that was the picture of the album cover or not. The World is Rockin' was the title of it, so that might have been the album cover. But yeah, there's the inside. It actually gives you a little bit of a write-up and explanation about the music that's on here. But I gotta say, it sounds pretty darn good for it being as old as it is. And the second part of this being the demos and everything like that. But yeah, so there's that. So I was enjoying that. This was a group that I just totally took a chance on, Fortune, that ended up being really good stuff. This is 1985. They had some release in the late 70s. It didn't do much for them. Then they, continued on and eventually got re-signed and put this release out. But this is killer synth and keyboard laden style AOR melodic rock. That's just big, bombastic, and awesome. If you've not heard them or checked them out for whatever reason, they had run under the radar for me, and it was just complete fluke that I decided to give it a listen and see what it was. It turned out to be great, so I'm glad that I ordered this. I had gotten this one in the previous order from Heavy Metal Museum, so this is the second album from Fate, and I now have this one, which I don't know if this is the fourth or maybe the fifth, but this is like, it's very early 90s. I want to say like 91, 92, somewhere in there. I don't see the year on the back of this, but it's just as good as this stuff. So the guitars are phenomenal. The keyboards are phenomenal. So the album cover screams 90s, but the sound on this thing is 1980s. It's very, very good. Angel Witch, Frontal Assault, second studio album. I've had this on record forever, never seen it on CD. I don't think it's necessarily a legit. I think it's a high quality boot or kind of unofficial release of some kind where, somewhere they're allowed to get it out, but it's not really official. I don't know. I'm just speculating because I've never heard or seen it on CD, but it basically sounds exactly as the LP. The LP, the quality of the music was never that great. So it is that same quality. It didn't get cleaned up. There's no remastering or anything on this. But I'm glad to finally have a CD copy of it. I love all things, that are part of the new wave of British heavy metal. So that's a cool CD to finally have to put into the collection. And then I picked up yesterday and today, Struck Down. I already had a 2-on-1, the debut and this one on a single CD release from the band, but getting these Rock Candy Records ones are great. And then I got the first 2 FM albums on Rock Candy Records. Again, I had them on BGO, Beat Goes On Records, 2 CDs, I think it was on 2 CDs, for the price of one type thing, but it's all packaged together. And again, this way getting the album standalone. So that was really cool. Now I had just shown you this Fortune release. And because I was so excited about that and looking forward to that, I went ahead and ordered this one and got it. So Level Ground, and I think this is 2022, and it might in fact even be the newest album from them. And I think this could be their 4th album. They have an album, as I said, back in the 70s. Then they had this one, and then I know they reformed and put out Fortune 2, which is actually their 3rd album. This might be their 4th album. I don't know if there's another one in between there or not, but they're still sounding just as good. So again, after you've checked out this one, there's some other stuff out there like this one that's worth checking out. Don't know if you've ever heard of the band Leeway. They're kind of hardcore thrash metal crossover, sort of the same way that like Suicidal Tendencies are. And I have one of their albums. In fact, I think it's the 3rd album, but I never had these. The debut and their 2nd album. And I haven't opened them yet because this is in a like I said, a sort of thrash metal crossover style type. And I knew that my mind was going to be on these other things, so I'm going to listen to this a little bit later, but I ordered these when I found them because I was surprised to even see them. And they were a really good price too. I want to say they were like $13.99 or something like that. So they're on BFD Records. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but glad to see these back in print. And I can add, I enjoyed the one Leeway album I had that I want to say was from like 93. It was the 3rd album. Was so good, and I always wanted more, but could never find the stuff. And now I've got those, so that was really cool. And last week's one of its new releases was the Kinks, and it was the Journey Part 3, a compilation. And from that, I did enjoy that a lot, even though it wasn't as good as all the first 2 compilations, because that was the 3rd in a series. So it's Journey Part 3, I guess. Sorry, not Part 2. But so I looked up online, and I didn't know, but there's been some Kinks reissues for their 60th anniversary that ran under the radar for me. And so I hadn't been able to get a hold of these albums. And I don't remember if it was both of these or just one of these, which was part of the stuff that I was listening to. And so I said, well, man, then I'm going to go ahead and throw these in and get them. And I was glad that I did. I never had listened to these albums, and they turned out to be really good. Like, I found a whole new era of Kinks music that I think I like. I love this stuff from the 80s, and I liked the stuff from the late 60s, early 70s, but I had never checked this stuff out from the late 70s. So good stuff. Glad to get that in there. And the last thing to wrap up on here is this new Guns N' Roses at 40 book from Martin Popoff. And no, Martin didn't send it to me. I didn't even know this was coming out, but Pete Pardo had gotten a copy. I think Martin had sent it to him to review, and he's not a big Guns N' Roses fan. He knows I am, so when he was done with it, he knew that he'd probably never be looking at it again as much as he enjoyed it, so he said he would send it on to me. So I got it, and I wasn't expecting too much, but I gotta say it turned out to be great. And I think the best part of it is not that there was stuff in here that I didn't already know, but it does go into the later years of stuff. The big thing being like this Chinese democracy era that it talks about in here, and trying to see if it find it in here. So there's the reunion era of the tour, and I love new current stuff like this. Axel and AC/DC is covered, so it covers all kinds of stuff. But on top of that, then it also talks about the reissue of Appetite and Use Your Illusion. But then there's new singles that are talked about in here, like Hard School and Perhaps. So it's got all the classic stuff from back in the day, but it actually goes all the way up through present day. And I most enjoyed reading about that newer history stuff, just because I've lived through it, and to get a little bit extra info on the stuff that I love so much. I know all the stuff about the original era of the band, but it was cool to get that. So this is a very cool book. It's done very well. If you're a fan of Guns N' Roses, I highly recommend checking it out. It's a great succinct bit of history for the band, but covers the entirety. It doesn't just cover that early era. And a lot of the histories that you're going to get are only going to cover the original stuff up to like 1992, 93, maybe Spaghetti Incident at its latest. And obviously this goes way, way, way beyond all of that. So there you go. I mean, it was 28 CDs plus the book, and then in the middle of all this, Target with Jimmy Jamison of Survivor singing, third album, an unreleased album that finally got released in 2017. The band Target recorded these albums somewhere in the late 70s, I believe. And yeah, so I'm super excited. I'm going to go check that out myself now at this point. But obviously I got a ton of stuff here, and I'm still digesting, and even a few things like the Leeway, which I haven't, opened just yet. So I'm going to hold on to those too. And, I've got a few other things like that Bush album that I know it's at a certain point when my mind is in more of that alternative rock phase, I will enjoy. So that's why I buy all these things. That's why I have them. That's why I hang on to them. And I talk so much about this stuff and about really giving a listen to these albums, especially ones that you are fans of the band, but maybe you're thinking this new stuff isn't for you. Sometimes you got to give it a few listens and let all that stuff that is built up in your mind, the anticipation, wear off so that you can just enjoy it for what it is. You never know. Sometimes it turns out to be the greatest stuff out there. And I certainly have found that along the way. I hope you guys do as well with some things. And certainly hit up and check out Heavy Metal Museum on eBay. They're a really great reseller who does it right. And Bad Reputation Records. And don't forget that I'm putting a link to those two codes where you can get a bonus CD with your order of either a boy singer or girl singer. He'll throw something in very cool for you. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.